I think everyone enjoys a nice murder, provided he is not the victim.
For decades, Hollywood called Alfred Hitchcock the master of suspense. Then his leading ladies started talking. Janet Leigh never took another shower for 35 years after filming Psycho. Grace Kelly fled to Monaco at 26 and never acted again. One actress discovered her dressing room had been recreated to look exactly like her bedroom at home. Another was locked in handcuffs for hours between takes. He collected their handwriting samples and had them psychologically analyzed. He even hired drivers to circle their houses. The man who created Psycho had his own disturbing secrets, and one private recording exposed it all. Alfred Hitchcock was born on August 13, 1899, in Leytonstone, United Kingdom. His childhood wasn't peaceful. It was shaped by fear, confusion, and control. These early experiences didn't fade with time. They burned themselves deep into his mind and followed him into adulthood, into every frame of film he made. When he was just 5 or 6, something happened that never left him. His father sent him to the local police station with a note. The officer read it, then locked the little boy in a jail cell. No explanation, no kindness, just cold steel and silence. After several minutes, the officer returned. He looked at the frightened boy and said, "That's what we do to naughty boys." Alfred never forgot those words, but what made it worse was not knowing what he had done wrong. His father used to call him "my little lamb without a spot," yet he ended up in a cell, terrified and confused. That fear stayed with him. For the rest of his life, he feared the police. He once told a reporter that policemen were one of his greatest fears. It showed in his films. Again and again, he told stories about people accused of crimes they didn't commit. At home, life wasn't easier. His mother, Emma, believed in silent punishment. She would force him to stand perfectly still at the foot of her bed for hours. It wasn't about hitting. It was about shame, control, and fear. He later recreated that moment in his film Psycho, with Norman Bates standing frozen at his mother's bed. The pain of that memory had stayed with him. Their family was Catholic, and Hitchcock went to a Jesuit school. The teachings were strict. Fear was part of the lesson. He said he developed a strong sense of fear, moral fear. He feared sin, he feared punishment, and he feared being caught doing something wrong. Guilt followed him. It didn't leave when he left school. It became part of how he saw the world. It shaped his characters. They often lived in a shadow of guilt, even when they had done nothing wrong. Hitchcock's body was another source of pain. He was overweight as a child, and it made him different. By the early 1900s, being fat wasn't considered a sign of wealth anymore. It was a sign of weakness. He didn't fit in. He was lonely. He stayed inside. Other kids didn't play with him. He didn't forget that feeling. It created insecurities that never really went away. He often joked about his weight, but behind those jokes was pain. He once said he could gain weight just by looking at a cashew nut. He didn't eat much, but still gained weight. It made him feel helpless. That feeling showed up in his films too. Outsiders, misfits, people who couldn't fit in. They were everywhere in his stories. And behind the camera, he tried to control everything. Maybe because he couldn't control his own body. He grew up in London, where the memory of Jack the Ripper still haunted the streets. The killer had vanished, but his shadow remained. Newspapers kept the fear alive. People whispered about him. Hitchcock was born just 11 years after the last known murder. The stories fascinated him. Women walking alone at night, danger in the fog, a killer who struck without warning. That fear soaked into Hitchcock's imagination. In 1927, he made The Lodger, about a man suspected of being a killer. The film looked and felt like those old Ripper stories. It was dark, quiet, and filled with fear. He was recreating the world he grew up in, a world where shadows weren't just dark, they were dangerous. One memory stood out from his early years. One night, his parents went for a walk and left him alone. He woke up in a dark, empty house. He panicked. He cried. He walked through the house, calling for them. No answer. He found the kitchen and ate a piece of cold meat, still crying. That small moment stayed with him. Food wasn't just food. It was comfort. It was control. Later in life, his mother used food to manipulate him. As an adult, he did the same to others. On set, he controlled meals. He planned everything. Even eating became part of his strategy. He didn't drink until he was 24. But once he started, it became a problem. He blamed alcohol for his weight gain. By the 1930s, he was drinking pitchers of gin and orange juice with friends, followed by champagne at lunch. The drinking helped him feel more in control, but it also pushed him further into isolation. He hated feeling weak. So he built systems. He became obsessed with preparation. His scripts, his sets, his shots, nothing was left to chance. In 1920, he entered the film industry. He wasn't a director, not yet. He started by designing title cards for silent films. But even in that small job, he saw something more. It was a way to control emotions. Without sound, every image mattered. Every cut had to carry weight. He learned fast. Within a few years, he became an assistant director. He understood how the industry worked, and he played the game better than anyone. He'd studied art in London. He'd worked as a draftsman. He knew how to compose an image. Even in his earliest writings, you could see the patterns, false accusations, twists, emotional conflict. He knew what disturbed people. In 1923, he met Alma Reville. She was already a skilled editor. He was still unknown. At first, she didn't notice him. Not until he became assistant director. When he offered her a job, she rejected the salary and walked out. He chased her down the hallway. He needed her, not for love, but for her mind. Their marriage was a partnership. She helped him shape every film. She gave final approval. He trusted her judgment more than anyone's. Some said they only slept together once, just to have their daughter, Patricia. That line may have been a joke, but it said a lot. Their connection wasn't about passion. It was about creation. She was his closest collaborator. In 1926, they got married. The wedding was simple. Their honeymoon mixed business with pleasure. They traveled through Paris to meet an actress. Even on holiday, work came first. Over time, Alma became his silent co-director. She was never in the spotlight, but her fingerprints were on every project. 16 films credited her directly. Many more didn't, but she was always there, watching, shaping, fixing what others couldn't see. Then came The Lodger. It changed everything. Released in 1927, it was his first real hit. A story about a mysterious man and a city drowning in fog. The film captured something dark and thrilling. It pulled from the Ripper myths. It used shadows and silence. He had studied German expressionist films. You could see that in the sharp angles and strange lighting. The public loved it. A trade journal called it the finest British production ever made. It was also the first time Hitchcock appeared on screen. An actor didn't show up, so he stepped in. That accident became tradition. From then on, he made a point of appearing in each film. Between 1927 and 1939, he built a brand. He became the master of suspense. People thought they knew him. They saw a smiling man with a dry wit and a round face. But that was a mask. Behind the scenes, he was still the boy in the cell, the boy at the foot of the bed, the boy crying alone with cold meat. Rebecca changed everything for Alfred Hitchcock. Before this film, he was a respected British director. After it, he held power few in Hollywood ever reached. When Rebecca premiered in 1940, it didn't just do well, it exploded. 10 Oscar nominations, 2 wins. One of them was Best Picture. That was something even his most famous films never achieved later. Not Psycho, not Vertigo, not Rear Window. Only Rebecca brought that home. The Oscar went to producer David O. Selznick, who technically owned the film through Selznick International Pictures. But everyone in Hollywood saw the truth. Hitchcock had arrived. He could craft films that critics praised and audiences paid to see. That combination gave him leverage. It gave him status. Most of all, it gave him freedom. From that moment on, Hitchcock began building a strange world around himself, where art, control, and obsession all mixed together. It started with his actresses. He didn't just hire them for talent. He looked for weakness, quiet voices, shy eyes, women who didn't push back. He handpicked Joan Fontaine for Rebecca because she had that uncertain, restrained energy. He believed it made her easier to mold, to guide, to control. He called blondes the perfect victims. He said they were like untouched snow, showing every footprint of violence. That wasn't just a quote. It was his rule. And once he found the right woman, he worked her like clay. He didn't just direct her. He studied her. He tested her. Sometimes he broke her. His own wife, Alma, who worked beside him for decades, saw what he did. She knew the damage, but she stayed silent, watching the pattern repeat again and again. During World War II, Hitchcock shifted gears. He took on a British government project to document Nazi atrocities. It was real horror, not staged. He filmed what Allied troops saw in concentration camps like Bergen-Belsen and Dachau. Corpses, piles of bones, eyeglasses, teeth, and hair. The raw footage was too much. The project was buried. Governments feared the film would ruin post-war diplomacy with Germany. So it sat in a vault for 70 years. When it finally came out in 2015 as part of the HBO documentary Night Will Fall, people saw a side of Hitchcock that was chilling for a different reason. He had filmed the truth, but even there, he had control. He arranged the shots, directed the sequence, crafted the emotion. That project gave him even more respect. People saw him as a patriot, a storyteller who could handle the darkest subjects. Behind the scenes, it gave him something else. Cover. His name was now linked with moral gravity. That made it easier to hide what he was doing to his actresses. He kept inserting himself deeper into his films, not just in tone or theme, but literally. He started appearing on screen. At first, it was practical. An actor didn't show up for the lodger, so Hitchcock filled the gap. But it turned into a ritual. He did cameos in 40 films. Sometimes he carried a musical instrument. Sometimes he struggled with a double bass on a train, like in Strangers on a Train. These appearances weren't jokes. They were his signature, a signal that he was the one pulling every string. He later admitted that fans were getting too focused on spotting him, so he started doing cameos early in the film, within the first 5 minutes. Then came Grace Kelly. She was young, polished, and cold on the surface. She starred in 3 of his films back-to-back. Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, To Catch a Thief. Critics loved her. So did Hitchcock. Maybe too much. In 1956, she quit acting at 26. She married Prince Rainier of Monaco. The world saw it as a fairy tale. But many in Hollywood thought otherwise. They whispered. Some said she wasn't just running toward royalty. she was running away from something else. Away from a man who had built her up, shaped her image, and tightened his grip too far. She never acted again, even though offers kept coming for years. That silence said more than any statement ever could. There was another side of Hitchcock most people never saw. He was obsessed with handwriting, not just for fun. He used it like a weapon. Starting in the 1950s, he began collecting handwriting samples from his actresses, sometimes through fan requests, sometimes through notes on scripts. He gave them to graphologists. These weren't party tricks. The analysts gave him psychological reports. He used it all. On set, he applied pressure exactly where it would hurt. He poked at weaknesses only he knew. If an actress feared abandonment, he threatened to cut scenes. If she had trust issues, he created tension with the crew. It wasn't casual bullying. It was designed to break down walls, to make her vulnerable, to make her perform the way he imagined. Alfred Hitchcock saw Tippi Hedren for the first time in a diet drink commercial on TV. That was October 13, 1961. From that moment, he decided he wanted her in his next film. But instead of contacting her directly, he created a strange, suspenseful plan to reel her in. She got a call asking if she was the girl in the Seagull commercial. They told her to bring photos of herself. The weekend passed in silence. No clue who wanted to see her. Then on Tuesday, she was taken to MCA's office and handed a contract. Only after she signed did they reveal it was Hitchcock. He was waiting, smiling. He had planned the entire thing like one of his own films. This wasn't about romance. It was a test. He wanted control. That contract locked her in for 7 years. She'd get $500 a week, but every decision about her career would be his. If another director wanted her, they had to go through him. And he almost always said no. Even when she begged to leave, he reminded her she had a daughter and aging parents. Then he warned her, "I'll ruin your career." And he kept his word. She was stuck. He paid her to do nothing, just to keep her from working for anyone else. The worst of it came during the filming of The Birds. Hitchcock had spent over $200,000 building fake birds with moving wings. But when they didn't look real, he scrapped them. Without telling Hedren, he decided to use real birds. She only found out the morning they shot the attic scene. His assistant delivered the news, then ran out of the room. Over 25,000 wild birds were used. Some had been trained to peck. Others didn't need training. They were already mean. For 5 days straight, birds were thrown at her. She was hit, scratched, and bitten. One day, 12 crew members ended up in the hospital. Hedren kept repeating to herself, "I won't let him break me." But he nearly did. On the last day, they tied birds to her dress so they couldn't fly away. One raven clawed near her eye, leaving deep cuts. Her face, neck, and hands were bleeding. She collapsed after shouting, "I'm done!" Hitchcock didn't show concern. He watched it all, silent. She had visible scars for years. When a doctor finally examined her, he said she needed a full week of rest. Hitchcock objected. He said the film couldn't wait. Only when the doctor insisted did he agree. She spent that week in bed, half awake, drained by the abuse. It didn't stop there. One day, in the back of a limousine, Hitchcock lunged at her. He threw himself on her and tried to kiss her. She was shocked, frozen. It happened again and again. She called those moments awful. At the time, there were no words for what she was facing. No one talked about stalking. No one talked about harassment. Then came the office attack. Hitchcock had a secret door built between his office and Hedren's dressing room. He used it. One day, he cornered her. He grabbed her. She tried to fight him off. The harder she fought, the angrier he got. She called it perverse and disgusting. That moment made everything clear. This was not about cinema. It was about power. After she fought him off, he looked into her eyes and said, "I'll ruin your career." He wasn't bluffing. He kept her under contract, but never let her work. Directors came calling. He always told them she was busy. She wasn't. He just wouldn't let go. Hitchcock had promised her 5 films. He gave her 2. Then he blocked her from everything. Universal Studios even told him to stop casting her. They canceled the 3rd film. She was trapped, forgotten, silenced. One of the biggest heartbreaks came when François Truffaut wanted her for Fahrenheit 451. It could have changed her life. She could have gone international. But when Truffaut's team called, Hitchcock's office lied. They said she was booked. She wasn't. He just didn't want her to work. That lost chance haunted her. He didn't stop at blocking her career. On set, he isolated her. He told Rod Taylor not to touch her. He told others not to talk to her. If he saw her smiling with a man, he stared. No emotion, just cold eyes. He called her the girl. He watched her constantly. During Marnie, things got worse. He grabbed her often. He told her about dreams where she loved him. He had her handwriting analyzed. His driver circled her house. He told Sean Connery not to touch her. If she laughed with a man, Hitchcock would freeze. His face would go blank. He didn't hide his jealousy. Then he crossed another line. He had her dressing room changed. He made it look like her bedroom at home. Same furniture, same layout. She was horrified. It meant he had been inside her life, watching, tracking, copying. It wasn't a set anymore. It was a fantasy built by a man who refused to let go. After she rejected him, he never touched her again. But he didn't need to. He used silence and contracts. He watched her fade. He didn't break her spirit, but he broke her chances. Her crime was saying no, and her punishment was exile. Alfred Hitchcock had a method, and it often looked like cruelty. While shooting The 39 Steps, he locked Robert Donat and Madeleine Carroll in real handcuffs. He didn't unshackle them between takes. When Carroll needed the bathroom, he still refused. He watched as the discomfort grew. This wasn't for realism. It was control. Hitchcock believed that fear, pain, and humiliation could shape a better performance. So he used them. And it wasn't only his actors. He once terrified his own daughter on a Ferris wheel. Patricia Hitchcock was left stranded at the top while the lights were cut. She sat in the darkness, alone and scared, as her father pretended to film somewhere else. Some say she was left there for over an hour. Patricia later claimed it only lasted a few minutes. Still, she remembered one thing clearly. Her father made a bet. He did it for laughs, and she never got the $100 he owed her. Janet Leigh wasn't laughing either. For 7 straight days, she filmed Psycho's famous shower scene. It ran for just 45 seconds on screen, but it changed her forever. She never took another shower again. For 35 years, she only used bathtubs. She developed a whole system to feel safe. Windows locked, doors open, always facing the entrance. Even that didn't stop the threats. For decades, she got death letters. Some were so disturbing, she gave them to the FBI. She changed her number again and again, every few months. The nightmare never stopped. Tippi Hedren's nightmare went even deeper. She kept quiet for decades. Then, in her 2016 memoir, she told the truth. She said Hitchcock grabbed her. He cornered her. He made her feel small and dirty. When she refused him, he threatened her career, and he followed through. She couldn't work. He made sure of it. She had a contract that kept her locked in. Hedren didn't speak up to ruin his name. She spoke up so no other woman would stay silent. When critics attacked her, she held her ground. "They weren't there," she said. "I was the one living that life." Years later, her granddaughter Dakota Johnson backed her up. In 2021, Johnson called Hitchcock out. She said he destroyed Hedren's career because she wouldn't sleep with him. Johnson, known for 50 Shades of Grey, didn't mince words. She called it terror. She said no one warned the family about The Girl, the HBO film that showed the abuse in detail. Johnson found out after the movie aired. She couldn't believe it. Her anger wasn't just about the past. She said no one in power should be allowed to destroy someone's life. Not in film, not anywhere. That film, The Girl, shook people. It aired in 2012 and starred Toby Jones and Sienna Miller. It showed what Hitchcock did during The Birds and Marnie. It was raw, it was graphic, and it sparked a storm. Some called it a hit piece. Others called it necessary. Several actresses like Doris Day and Eva Marie Saint said their experience with Hitchcock had been positive. But Tippi Hedren said the film got it right. It just didn't show everything. Then came the Weinstein scandal. In 2017, Tippi Hedren saw the headlines and posted a tweet. She said this wasn't new. She'd been through it. So had many women. She reminded everyone that Hitchcock wasn't the first. He wasn't the only one. She said it had taken 50 years for women to rise up. But finally, they were doing it. She had walked away from her abuser. Not everyone could. That's why she spoke out. Alfred Hitchcock never had to answer for any of it. He died in 1980. He was 80 years old. Kidney failure took him, just months after Queen Elizabeth II knighted him. He got his title in Hollywood because he was too sick to fly. Reporters asked why the honor took so long. He joked, "I suppose it was a matter of carelessness." No one asked about the women. At his funeral, the spotlight was still on his legacy, not his secrets. Even now, the cover-up continues. Critics still defend him. Scholars write books trying to prove he cared about women. Some even call his films feminist. They claim the stories of abuse have been exaggerated. They say he had good relationships with most of his actresses. Film schools still teach his work. Awards still honor his name. And the industry still looks away.